Hello and welcome to another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman, and I'm joined by my usual cohorts, the Professor, Russ Stevens, Uncle Joe McLaughlin, and he's JP's first son, Tim Hoey. Well, we have another great show for you tonight, so boys, let's get it started. And we finally have something to talk about. I decided to rock the Patriots lid. First of all, a shout out to Max Kerman. He's watching the show on Facebook. What the Patriots lid?
Maxie.
And hey, Maxie. So,
Bo Hathaway too in Vancouver.
So excited, boys. The talk was, of course, for Timmy, was it tanking for Trevor? We knew that if they kept Joe Tooney, like Rusty Boy said, that most likely that meant they weren't tanking. Well, the votes are in. They're not tanking because they signed Cam Newton to be their starting quarterback, and I feel like they're all in.
I don't know about all in. I mean, they got him on the cheap. Which Cam Newton are we getting? Are we getting the guy that lost his last 8 games who stunk up the joint? Or are we getting the Cam Newton that carried a team on his back to the Super Bowl?
I mean, Belichick clearly wants to win 10, 11, 12 games. That's why he signed Cam Newton, right? You can win 5, 6, 7, 8 games with Jared Stidham, but maybe. I mean, but I'm sure he was confident he could do that. But I think, he wants to get to another AFC Championship game, doesn't he, Joe?
Yeah, and I heard an interesting take on the NFL Network today. An AFC East coach, who I assume would be Brian Flores, if, connected to the Patriots, says they still love Stidham, and they would like to use, where they're not going to be able to install everything with Cam, use him as a wild card, not a wildcat, a wild card. Yeah. Someone that they can bring in as a change of pace, like Belichick loves to do with his backs, change of pace backs all the time. Be able to do that with his quarterbacks.
Oh, all right.
And defenses, beware.
Yeah, I'm not buying any of the Stidham hype, and I'm sure not buying it anymore that they signed Cam Newton. He's 31 years old. Apparently, he had 2 pretty bad injuries the last 2 years that affected him. This is a guy who, number 1 pick in the draft, went to a Super Bowl, MVP, 31 years old, on a make-do contract. This is a perfect scenario for the Patriots to get the most out of a player. Would you agree?
Well, I just want to back up a little bit. Are they saying they don't have faith in Stidham? Is that what this says?
No. What is faith in Jared Stidham? I mean, just look, Scott's been we've positioned each other into anti-Stidham, pro-Stidham. The whole point on Stidham is you don't know what he is, and having faith in him, it has to be measured against. He needs a lot of reps. He's played like 5 snaps in the NFL, right? So I think you basically give him another year to develop, and if he's called into action to play in the same game as Cam as a alternative, or Cam gets hurt, or they just want to see what he looks like at the end of the year, great, right? Like I don't think
Stidham right now is Rohan Davey. That's all he is.
We all loved him, though.
No, right, but I'm saying when you have if Tom Brady was the starting quarterback, no one would even say Stidham's name.
That's right.
Oh yeah, he'd just be the scout quarterback. But this is different. How much time are they going to have to? They've already canceled half the preseason. They've canceled the OTAs. Now they've canceled half the preseason, as of today. So how much time is it going to be for Cam Newton to learn the language, the playbook, and then install it in reps with his teammates so that he can use it in a game?
Here's the thing, though, Joe. Our coaching staff is so smart. They will give him exactly what they think he can handle. And
I agree.
They'll put 20 plays in and say, run these plays to your best of your ability. These guys are not going to force Cam Newton to run the same offense that Tom Brady did, right? They're going to build an offense. They're going to do what they do every single year and every single game of every year, which is build the game plan around what they have on the field of that game.
But Russ, on the other hand, they give a lot of these receivers more than they can handle. So I don't know if I have faith in that.
Who gave, I see.
No, Tom Brady gave them more than they could.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
That might clarify that.
Yeah.
Look, we're fans. We enjoy watching the Patriots play. At the least, this makes the Patriots season so much more interesting.
Well, Cam Newton, I mean, you're never going to find a more motivated guy than this guy.
He's a huge personality. Remember, we have some lack of star power right now in Boston sports. We've lost Tom Brady, Mookie Betts. We need some star power in all of our sports. And Cam Newton is about as big as it gets in the NBA and the NFL.
If he could, 80% of what he was, would be happy?
Yeah. I mean, Timmy, you asked the question. Someone asked the question the other day, who do you think is more motivated to prove himself next year, Tom Brady or Cam Newton?
Oh, Cam Newton.
I think so, too. He's
Tom Brady's
career.
I mean, he's older. We've seen the decline in the last couple of years. I mean, he did win the Super Bowl. He did great, but that whole season, that did not look like a Super Bowl team that whole season. We were all bashing them that whole year.
And they're not going to get, and Tom Brady's not getting any better this year. Okay, it's been 3.5 minutes of the show, and I haven't mentioned Jimmy G, so I'm going to get it in right away. Who would you rather have as quarterback?
He's 2,000 miles away, Scotty.
Yeah, right. Who would you rather have a quarterback going into the season, Cam Newton or Jimmy G?
I'll take Jimmy G, thanks.
Yeah.
Which Cam Newton? I mean, the jury's still out on Cam Newton. Now, which Cam Newton are we going to get?
The fact is,
I know as much about Cam Newton as I know about Jared Stidham right now, actually.
But
I
Joe,
don't know how he'll fit in at all.
This guy wasn't exactly lighting it up. I mean, he was injured.
A year ago, Jimmy G was coming off a major injury, an ACL injury, and obviously
he'll be coming off another one 3 games into the season.
Hey, Scott, I mean, here's the thing. Yeah, look, if you're going to say for the next 3 to 5 years, who would you want to be quarterback of the New England Patriots, you'd probably say Jimmy G. That being said, Cam Newton has humbled himself like no superstar has maybe ever humbled himself. I mean, what his guarantee, Joe, I read this a little while ago, his guarantee, $550,000 guaranteed this year.
Wow.
He's humbled himself, and he's coming in and basically saying, I've got to go prove myself. So to Tim's point, if he's the Cam Newton of early 2018, 2015 or something like that, we're going to see a very exciting brand of football in New England. That's going to be a lot of fun. But Jimmy G's younger, he's healthier, and he's signed a lot longer.
And Russ, you were the one who brought up the fact that Liz Frank injury that he suffered. That I've seen that end a lot of careers. It just, especially guys that use their feet a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, for a couple of things about Cam Newton that I like. Now, when Brady went down, we had the Matt Cassell era for 1 year. Cassell and Bill Belichick somehow figured out how to win 11 games. But what Cassell was that Brady wasn't was a runner. Cam Newton will run for 2 or 3 key first downs a game. Something that's going to be nice to see from a quarterback. Also, Cam Newton is huge. He's as big as any lineman that will tackle him. This guy, you got to wrap him up with a couple of guys to get him down. This is not Tom Brady. So there's going to be certain parts of the game that we like in Cam Newton that we haven't seen in 20 years.
Do you think he's still going to run wild like he did when he was a younger guy before the injuries? Or is he going to?
No, not at
we
all.
We don't know those guys have like a life expectancy, or is he going to get a little bit smarter and throw the ball away a little bit more than he used to?
Josh and Bill will have him run in very strategic surgical circumstances, right? And they'll run plays where they give him an option, but he's not going to run the read option, 70 times a game. Right? He's just, that would be suicide. So I can't wait. I think it's going to be fun as hell to see what this coaching staff can do with Cam Newton for 1 year. And by the way, if it works out really well, they could franchise him and get 2 years out of him and try to win.
No, they can't.
Yes,
they can franchise him. They can.
They absolutely.
No, they said today in his contract that he can't be franchised.
That is not what I read, Joe. I read from Jason Lock-In-4 that they have every right to franchise him.
That's what I read too. Yeah, and they'll have.
I read that yesterday too, but today they're saying there is a clause because
we'll have to find that out for the audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we have plenty of time to find it out. But the Patriots, it looks like, could have close to $100 million in salary cap room after this season. So they're going to have.
Yeah, they would have. control of him for the next 4 years. If that were the case, they could
If nothing else,
franchise him again.
It's a huge shot of adrenaline into the Patriots' interest of the team.
Oh, absolutely, and it puts Tom Brady where he belongs. He's up on Mount Rushmore, but he's no longer a New England Patriot. He's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, and we have to move on, and we've moved on from it. Boys, Patriots lose a third-round pick and a $1.1 million at the same time that they signed Cam Newton. We know that's not a coincidence. They made sure to make those moves at the same time. But it's so ridiculous that the Patriots get penalized like they do.
All right, just to hold on, I just Googled it. The Patriots can franchise Cam Newton. I'm reading right here.
Yeah.
One day ago.
Look, the fact is, if they franchise him at $27 million next year and they have him for $1 million this year, if you get a top quarterback for $14 million for 2 years each year, that's a hell of a bargain, and they'll take that any day of the week.
And it would be less money because the salary cap will probably go down, and that is part of the factoring in to the franchise tag now.
The huge score for the Patriots, and a huge score for Cam Newton too. He's right where there's no better place he could have gone.
Yeah.
Except we have no wide receivers.
He had no wide receivers in Carolina either, so they stunk.
Professor, tell me, the third-round penalty
my view on that is if they felt like they were really guilty, if Belichick knew about this, they would have been much, much harder on them. Much, much harder. I think this was basically a slap on the wrist for the NFL, but they had to do something like get them to a third rounder just because they're repeat offenders. But if they felt like Belichick ordered that or knew about it, they'd have docked him 2 first-round picks.
He would have been gone. But the guy, he had to take at least a third-round pick for the guy being so stupid.
Yeah. All right, boys.
It hurts, though. It does.
Of course it does, yeah.
Yeah, but if Cam leaves as a free agent after next year, I'm sure that it would be a third round, and
just another
get in return.
Crappy defensive back that he doesn't have to draft now. All right, speaking of draft, we need some input and some production from rookie classes. We need them as rookies. So this one seems like it'd be a nice year that hopefully hit the draft class with 2 tight ends, a edge rusher, some other guys in some key positions. Like to see some production from them if they're supposed to be a Super Bowl contending team.
Yeah,
just those 2 tight ends would be a blessing.
I totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm. The Patriots don't have a history really of throwing those rookies right into the storm too quickly, though.
They did once before with Gronkowski and Hernandez. They both started as rookies.
Right. How many times did we see that running back from Alabama carry the ball last year?
Yeah, 2 times. I think
the Damian Harris. I'm really anxious to see him. I think he could replace Burkhead.
He was a stud at Alabama. I don't know why. I don't know if he was injured last year, but he went off the radar.
Well, the guy that I think should be the happiest that Cam Newton's on the team to me is N'Keal Harry. Obviously, Brady and N'Keal Harry did not mix at all. N'Keal Harry, you're going to see a lot more in the slot. Remember, Cam Newton made his name with Greg Olsen, the tight end. He likes to throw to those tight ends. He likes those kind of positions where the guy comes from a certain spot. N'Keal Harry's, if he's any kind of player, is going to have a big season.
Well, Newton has had a series of very large receivers down in Carolina. Funchess, Kelvin Benjamin. There was another guy or two, very big, like
it's 3 guys. You're right,
Harry kind of guy. And I think you're right, Scott. I think Harry could be the biggest beneficiary of Newton coming on the whole team.
Yeah, Brady wouldn't throw him.
No.
All right, the Tom Brady. Look, I love Tom Brady, and I say it every week. I love Tom Brady, but I told you a couple years ago it was getting Tom Cruise spooky-like with the Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And the tweet yesterday saying that after Edelman had tweeted about Cam Newton arriving in the Patriots, and this tweet that I'm still your number one with the number one is creepy.
It was very creepy.
I didn't see it.
I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim.
I didn't. What did he say?
He said, "I'm still your number one" to Julian Edelman.
He tweeted it back.
I put it number one, not one O-N-E, but number one, which of course is Cam Newton's number. It was like an ex-girlfriend manifesto in a sentence.
You wonder if it's hitting Brady that he's not here anymore, and it's a disruption to him.
Look, I have a theory.
I wonder how he's going to deal with the change himself.
Tom Brady thought he was going to have the best of both worlds. He thought he was going to be able to be in Tampa and loved by them, and then everybody in New England just watching Tampa games, loving Tom. The Patriots were going to suck. We didn't move on from that. He was going to continue the TB12 brand here.
Yeah, his whole family can't go outside now.
Yeah,
it's so hot and muggy down in Tampa.
Scotty, you froze up there for a moment.
I think Brady's off-field behavior over the last few weeks has been not great, right? Just very openly flouting the social distancing stuff, writing stuff like the only thing to fear is fear itself when, the virus is exploding in a whole bunch of states and he's not, it's like, there's a little bit of like situational awareness that he's not quite understanding, and it might go back to Tim's point. He was the guy up here, and he seems to be scrambling for attention right now.
Yeah, it gets creepy. And I told you he's going to be 48-year-old guy on the sidelines with a clipboard and being the second string quarterback.
Nobody worships their athletes like we worship them up here. And you wonder if he gets off to a rough start, you wonder what the reaction is going to be down there.
Don't ever forget he's a Trump supporter. Don't ever forget.
No, he wasn't a Trump supporter. He just had the hat in the locker room.
Whether he is, I think I actually think he's not going to get off to a bad start. I think he's going to get off to a great start. I think it is going to be one of the top 3 storylines in the NFL because he's got a really good offense around him, right?
True.
An average quarterback should be able to play very well in that system, and he's at least an average quarterback.
Especially his conservative style, just not turning it over.
Right.
They should be able to, control field position if nothing else.
All right, boys. So Bill Belichick decided not to tank and then decided to sign Cam Newton. When do you think that he made that change?
When Cam Newton's price dropped to the point where he could sign him for a veterans minimum, right? Honestly, I don't think if Cam Newton was demanding $10 million a year right now, he wouldn't get a sniff of the Patriots.
Is there a possibility they could cut Cam Newton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
really? They cut other guys
at that price.
Not healthy.
Never cut him at that price.
Well, but what if he's not healthy? What if he comes into camp and he's hobbling around? He's got a Liz Frank problem, or he re-injures his Liz Frank injury. You can cut him.
By the way, I forgive my ignorance. What is a Liz Frank injury?
It's a particular foot injury that's very hard to heal. It was just discovered like about 5 years ago that what was happening is like a torquing of the muscles in your feet, and it makes you more susceptible for a recurrence too.
Yeah,
it's basically plantar fasciitis hell.
Yeah, I mean,
we all know that.
He's guaranteed $550,000. They could cut him tomorrow and not lose almost anything. It's the opposite of the Antonio Brown contract from last year.
Yeah,
well, what if he walks out like the guy from the Colts did there?
Right.
Oh, Reggie Wayne?
Yeah, Reggie Wayne.
Well, speaking of Antonio Brown, are we going to get off the hook with his contract this year?
I don't think so.
No,
we're still $4.5 million or something we owe.
Yeah, it's dead money. All right, boys, we'll go to the Boston Red Sox. Are 10-1 in Vegas to win the division. Who's betting money on the Boston Red Sox if they do play winning anything?
Just to be clear, I guess I didn't really realize this yesterday. The division means the Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets, the Atlanta Braves.
Is that right?
Washington Nationals. There are 3 10-team divisions.
But I thought we were playing them, but our division would still remain with the same 4 teams.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we're still in the division, but we only sort of play those other teams, basically.
Right.
Okay. All right. 10-1. Not a chance. If you look at the final roster for the Red Sox.
Here's the thing, though, Scotty. Like,
it's so unimpressive.
If you wanted to bet on a long shot, 60 games, you go off on a run and you play 12 good games, you go 10-2 in 12 games at some point in time, you almost qualify for the playoffs at that point in time.
Yeah, no, right. Absolutely. Yeah. 10-game winning streak, whoever has that is making
a bag. Right.
We didn't think we were going to see Alex Verdugo probably until June or July. Well, it's July, and Alex Verdugo is probably going to be your fifth hitter in your lineup. That's going to be a fun storyline.
Yeah. Going to be huge rosters because people they're going to have a dozen guys ready to go from AAA at all times because anyone gets sick, you got to plug someone else in.
Look, if you're picking a scenario to be the replacement for Mookie Betts, this is the scenario you'd pick: a completely forgotten year with low expectations, right? Yeah. 6 bizarre games. He's going to have no pressure on him to be the Mookie Betts replacement, which he would have had he started on April 3rd, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. So if Mookie Betts has 12 home runs and Verdugo has 7, it doesn't look like much difference over a 60-game.
Exactly right.
Not a chance that actually ever playing 60 games over that. But so we'll have fun talking about it. Name one pitcher that you're interested in seeing pitch for the Boston Red Sox this year. Name one storyline on the mound that's any level of interest.
Can Evaldi last the whole season? It's a shortened season at that.
Right. I'm interested if Erod can keep up his ascent.
Exactly. I'm totally with Timmy. Erod's the guy. Like, aren't you interested to see if Erod can turn it up a notch?
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's his team. He's the number one starter. There's no question about it. I don't know if his mental makeup is for a number one starter. He definitely has the physical makeup.
Scotty, think what you just said. Erod is our number one starter.
Yeah. I know. But Timmy, he has number one stuff. Yeah. He definitely has.
But remember, Cora was able to handle him. Maybe this guy won't be able to handle him.
Well, he's a number 5 starter, up in the head area. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
He wasn't last year, though. Like last year, he was a top 5 Cy Young candidate, I believe.
Yeah, Cora could keep him in line. Cora would really put the hammer down on him. I don't know if this guy's gonna.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. That segues into my next topic. I just think it's pathetic that people continue to speak that Alex Cora is going to be the manager next year. Is that even remotely possible?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
He was popular.
I'd be fine with it.
They'd bring back Francona if they could.
He's a great man.
Well, I mean, it's a little different story. Francona's, I think, the best manager in baseball, and he didn't play with the system like Alex Cora did.
Cora did a great job here, I thought.
Look,
I would not be upset if they brought him back.
If you believe in doing your time, he's doing his time. It's only going to be 60 games, apparently. It's not going to be 162. If he does his time, I don't have a problem with him coming back.
Wow, I have a complete problem. I don't want to see Alex Cora coming back through that door. I don't think he's paid enough penalty for what he's done. If Alex Cora was by far the best person to get the Sox to another World Series title, would you feel the same way? No, I think he's been compromised as a manager. I think he's been absolutely compromised.
And I think what Russ is saying is right. He might be the best man for the job.
Wow, that's pretty pathetic as far as the pool of potential manager candidates. If a guy who, since the Black Sox scandal, I would say, was heavily involved in the worst scandal in Major League Baseball in the last 100 years, and we're saying he's the only guy that can manage the Boston Red Sox in 2022, that is absolutely ludicrous.
You know what I like?
I just don't think sign stealing is all that egregious.
What are you talking about? What is sign stealing? It's really the whole integrity of the freaking sport, Joe, is that issue. Why don't we just tell the defense what play is going to be run in football?
It was a big deal.
Why did you do that?
What's that?
That fastball or curveball, that's a big deal. It is a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Joe, I'd be a former major league player if I knew what the hell every pitch was coming. I can tell you that. If you told me, I would just sit on
lay off the breaking stuff.
I would, yeah, because I couldn't hit a breaking ball to save my freaking life. But I would have just sat on a fastball, and I'd be I'd be over Reed Nichols.
But Scott, so by the way, both of these things could be true. It could be, it's really, really, really bad what he did, and he could be the best person to manage the Red Sox. But my question would be,
I hit the nail right. You know what I
right in the head.
This league is a hugely Latino league right now, and I love Cora's ability to communicate with those guys. That to me, that's big.
So, Scotty, but wait a minute, Scott. I got.
Have the manager take some fucking Spanish course.
I got another question for you though. What if it came out that 10 other teams were doing basically the same thing? Would the fact that it was a systemic issue? I mean, the thing that you're arguing for, which I respect, is it seemed to be right now. All we know is that the Astros did it. He was part of inventing the scheme and executing the scheme. What if it turns out there were 10 other teams who did, and 10 other managers are just involved? Would you feel the same way about Cora that you do now?
Absolutely. Yeah. If 10 guys commit the same crime, it doesn't make anybody less guilty of the crime. Absolutely. Look, the fact is they give them greatest rewards for their misbehavior.
I applaud you for sticking to your guns. I'm impressed with the depth of your sort of spirituality about this.
Alex Cora is a scumball. He's a scumball. No, really. I think as a purist, and I say that, I love baseball. As you guys know, we're a baseball show first. That what he did was unbelievable, abomination, and he shouldn't even be allowed in a major league park.
And you know what, Scotty, to your point, he got the ultimate reward, a World Series with. Do you remember that? Do you remember watching that series and the hitting display that team put on?
Oh, Springer and them, Altuve. Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe what they were doing. Average hitters who were just crushing the ball. So when you look back on it, it makes sense now. And I mean, and they won a World Series out of it, which kind of makes
he got a job. He got a job with the Boston Red Sox.
Even more egregious the fact won a World Series.
And do you think for a minute that every team in Major League Baseball, once the season starts again, won't be trying to steal the signs of the other team in one way?
No, they're gonna. No, not in a short season like this. No way. Well, how are they gonna do that? There's no crowd.
Scott, I got another question to test how far you go on this. So, do you think that the Astros should abdicate their title given what they did that year?
Oh, absolutely. If this was college football, they in college sports they do that all the time.
So if it turned out that Cora had instituted the same system for the 108-win Red Sox, you would be saying the Red Sox should abdicate that title?
I was very concerned about that. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You're sticking to your guns.
I just think that, to be honest with you, you've changed the game forever.
You do change it. Absolutely.
It's far worse than having a corrupt umpire or referee. It's far worse.
10 times worse than Belichick taping a sideline.
Oh my God.
He was taping the signals too. That was his idea. But he was stealing the signals of the other team.
Guys,
and that's why they just lost the third-round pick, because they assumed they were trying to steal the signals of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, they were
going to play next
week. They had the camera in the wrong spot. I mean, it's film that anyone can see anyways.
No, that was bullshit. I
agree, Timmy.
But I understand that they paid for it and stuff, but I think it's complete, bullshit as far as the first-round pick. But this is completely different. When you look at the batting averages of the Altuves of the world, when they were being warned of what the pitch was, these guys were batting like 500. I mean, changing the sport completely, turning it over, upside down.
All you do is go to a Babe Ruth game, and you can see the curveball just neutralizes 3/4 of the team.
Yeah, and the way Jim Crane, the owner, was so unapologetic to this very moment, never apologized for it. The way the players were still so arrogant made this even worse.
Well, how about just a few years ago, the Yankees and the Red Sox with the Apple Watches?
I know, but all right, Joe. Yeah, but, I mean, they're little minor criminals. They're little misdemeanors. This was a
Minor
major
criminals.
felon. No, seriously. This was a serial murderer. This was the freaking Unabomber. I mean, this was son of freaking Sam. This
You know
was
what?
blowing the sport up.
They had figured out the perfect system. Really, the ding ding or the bang bang or whatever they were doing. I mean, here comes the fastball. Good as you could have it.
Anyone notice every time he banged the trash can that it was a breaking ball or whatever?
It's Texas. They're all loaded up to their ass in booze. They don't know what the hell they're doing, and they're too stupid to figure it out anyways. And
You would think the fans and someone in the stands should have made the connection, right?
Hey, Scotty.
Everyone has a brain.
How about you brought your own barrel and you banged it a few times just to screw them up?
Hey, Scott, I think you just blew our chance to get coverage down in Texas. I don't think the public access channel's going to
be big in Texas.
All right, we're gonna go to. All right, first of all, we got to cover the other Bruins. Bruins. All I got to say about the Bruins is, I love hockey players. I love their personalities. And out of all the 4 sports, these guys don't worry about being quarantined for 3 months. Just give them all a case of beer every night. They won't complain one bit. And that's the only sport that I truly believe has a chance of completing the season.
You see where they're sticking them? There's no one's going to be in this country. No one in the United States.
Toronto, right? Yeah, it might be Edmonton and Toronto. Yeah.
It's definitely Edmonton and Toronto.
Yeah.
Can you imagine being exiled to Edmonton? Oh, my God.
More than half the guys are Canadian, Joe. They're more than half.
Yeah, but Edmonton isn't Canada. Edmonton is out of Siberia, for God's sake.
The other half, half the nation of Siberia, so we're all set,
Can we not say anything bad about Canada? Because we already just wrote off Texas earlier.
Those Canadians, they are a different
Edmonton, Alberta. Alberta makes Kansas look like a metropolis.
I can't say anything bad about Canada. All right, we go on to the Celtics then. If I can't do that, I was going to say, players are starting to bow out.
No, but there's a handful. I'm very optimistic about the NBA's plan. The guys who tested positive were less than 1 a team, and you haven't seen any major players opt out. The closest thing to a major player is Avery Bradley. I just don't think you're going to see stars opt out of this thing.
Well, DeAndre Jordan.
Who cares? They're not going to. They stink. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. Yeah.
It's just going to be interesting, though. I think you're going to have guys who are key components of teams bow out.
Yeah, Iguodala's up in the air about coming.
Not so far, but yeah, Iguodala's a secondary player. Like these are all 6th, 7th men. Talk to me when one of the top 3 guys on a playoff team bows out, and then I'll start to worry.
Yeah. All right, boys. Well, this was a fun show. I can't wait to see you guys. That's our show for tonight. I want to thank the boys. I want to thank everyone behind the scenes. Andrew, thank you for all your help. Please check us out on the website, thegrandstanders.com, and tune in again next Wednesday night at 6:30 for another edition of Grandstanders Live. I'm your host, Scott Kerman. Have a great and happy night.